I'm responsible for our membership sales team. The enrollment manager team is what we call them. And so where I spend a lot of my time is using AI to really enable those reps to have the most quality conversations with potential members as possible.
I'm Jonathan Gandalf, and welcome to the Content Cocktail Hour, powered by Audience Plus. Our mission is to shake out the deepest secrets of B2B marketing professionals and stir up fresh conversation, all to help you connect your brand with the right audience at the right time. Let's raise a glass. Welcome back to the Content Cocktail Hour. I'm thrilled to be joined by Josh Carter, Senior Director of DemandGen at Pavilion. This is going to be a really fun conversation as I personally am a big fan of Pavilion, a member of Pavilion. I have been for a long time, even before it was called Pavilion. It was Revenue Collective. I've learned a lot from the community. The events are fantastic. The team is one that I really admire. So I'm excited to be joined by one of those team members here today. Josh, before I ramble too long, why don't, in your own words, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and your role at Pavilion.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for listening wherever you're listening from, your car, you're on a run, whatever you're doing. I listen to this podcast when I go on runs. It's a great podcast, so nice work on that. I am the Director of DemandGen at Pavilion, so I'm responsible for driving new members to join the community through content. We work with the juice through our sales efforts. I've got a team of what we call enrollment managers, and they are responsible for setting potential members up for success and getting them into the community. And setting themselves up for success is really important for this group, because Pavilion is not a congrats, you joined the community, wipe our hands clean. We've got to make sure that our members are successful, and we're really helping them grow their careers. And so my job is to help members join and feel that sense of community right off the gate when they get into Pavilion.
I'm really curious. I don't typically ask a quick follow-up question to your background, but I am interested on the membership enrollment, like DemandGen for membership. Yeah. That's slightly different than how software typically defines DemandGen around, leads and pipeline creation. And it's not quite PLG either. There's not a lot of people doing what you do. You're kind of having to create your own playbooks. I hate that word, but you're kind of doing your own thing. Did you have a background in that, or is this wholly new and unique and you're building it as you go a little bit?
So my background's in B2B SaaS. So it very different. It really is. We're the industry that we're serving is people who are working in go-to-market roles, sales, marketing, customer success, founders, CEOs at B2B SaaS companies. But when it comes to the sales process, it's different in a lot of ways. About half our members will pay for this out of pocket. About half will expense it with their company, whether it's through an L&D budget or something like that they can spend. And so the sale is very strange, because I'm having to basically do B2C marketing, because at the end of the day, Pavilion is a membership that we want somebody to have for the life of their career, because we help professionals grow their careers through continuing education. We've got a bunch of courses. We've got a community of over 10,000 go-to-market leaders across the world with chapters in most major cities. So we're there for every step of somebody's career within go-to-market, whether they're an AE wanting to be a sales manager, or they are a VP wanting to make it to the C-suite. And so as a result, the traditional marketing approaches that you might make for a B2B, like the ABM and all that stuff, is less important. It's more about really connecting somebody's career and where they are today with where they can be, and helping them realize that vision. And we do that through our marketing. And when we get on calls with them, we don't focus on what are you doing today and how can we make you better at your job, which is certainly important, but no, it's where you want to be in your career. What do you want to focus on when it comes to your professional development? So it is definitely weird, to be quite honest with you, to try to have to change that mindset coming from that traditional, MQL, SQL type funnel motion to more of a business that really thrives off of referrals. So when I first started here, my focus was not necessarily to try to bring in a bunch of new members from the ecosystem and get them into our funnel. What I was really focused on is looking at our funnel metrics and seeing where we can improve. We have over 100,000 leads inside of our HubSpot instance. We have hundreds and hundreds of people start the sign-up process on our website. How are we getting those people across the finish line and getting them to join as members, and really fixing that bottom of funnel? Almost it does feel kind of like PQL e-commerce-y to some extent. Yeah. but getting those people down through the funnel and converting them. And so that's really like what I had been focused on for so long when I first started here, that now when it comes to demand gen efforts, I'm going away from really just focusing on specific funnel optimizations at the bottom of the funnel to now, okay, how do I expand within an account? If 2 VPs from Salesforce join, where is opportunity to get other people within Salesforce and really take advantage of the word of mouth channel that we have at Pavilion to get them into membership within specific companies as one example, because referrals are about 60 to 70% of our new memberships. So it's really like, how do I activate that channel in different ways and in very tactful ways, ways that help the community build together versus, hey, let's just try to bring in as many members all at once as we possibly can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's such an interesting challenge. Like that last kind of referral piece it's almost more like customer marketing than anything else, right? Because it's the land and expand motion. So man, really, really interesting. Maybe we'll geek out on some of that a little bit later. But Josh, this is the content cocktail hour. So I do always ask all of our guests to start with, what are you enjoying drinking nowadays?
I've been such a big IPA fan for so long. I live in Richmond, Virginia. We have more breweries per square footage, or there's some stat about the per capita breweries, and we have just like so many. So I've just been such an IPA drinker for so long. And then I look down at myself, I'm like, I should probably not drink as many IPAs. And then I should probably just cut back a little bit. So I've been drinking, it's called Recess. It's a mocktail and it's amazing. And the brand is actually really brilliant because I joke around. I'm like, I'm going to go have a recess. And just, I don't know, I say it out loud. I'm like, this is a nice little break, but it's a good cocktail, like low calorie, good mocktail. It just makes you feel like you're sipping something and it's good. So highly recommend Recess. That's a plug. Sponsor the Content Cocktail Hour show.
Yeah, no free ads.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. That's awesome. Yeah, I do. I've seen that brand. It's a cool brand. Big fan of the mocktail category as well. We've had a lot of people recommending those. Somebody just a couple episodes ago recommended a phony Negroni, which was a non-alcoholic Negroni, which was pretty interesting because I feel like 75% of the ingredients in a Negroni are alcoholic, so I needed to sort that out. But interesting nonetheless. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like part of the reason people drink Negronis is because of the heavy alcohol in it. Anyways, everyone go check out Recess. Go enjoy some Recess with Josh. All right, Josh, let's dig in. I don't tell every podcast guest, but we do have a admiration for your team, and we've taken some of the courses. You mentioned earlier, you want to be there at every step of the career. That's happened for me personally. I joined Revenue Collective as a director in marketing, stayed involved as a member in becoming a VP of marketing and then a founder. And at each step, there's been a different kind of Pavilion resource and different courses for me and different communities and networks for me. And so that's very legitimate. Most recently, our team has been doing some AI courses in revenue. Specifically, our sales leader has been keeping me up to date on what she's learning in one of the courses. And one of the things she shared is that some of how you guys teach in that course is how Pavilion uses AI. And I just think that's so cool. You guys have a really lean team, I know, probably for the size of business that you are, but I'd love to hear a little bit about how you are using AI kind of in your demand gen role and maybe what you're seeing the rest of the team do with AI. And then we can dig in from there maybe on specific use cases.
Yeah, the AI journey is interesting. I think there was definitely a big hype train last year where a lot of people and a lot of companies came out of the woodwork, developed these like point solutions that solved like one particular AI challenge. And then, of course, like everybody gets into ChatGPT and gets really excited. So I think our experience is not all too uncommon compared to what everybody else experienced, where my team, we definitely got a little, I don't want to say trigger happy, but very much like squirrel, distracted. Look at this AI tool. Look at this one thing we could do with AI. Look at this other thing we can do with AI. And I think it was a net positive thing, actually, because it allowed us to see like what was possible. So what's honestly great about working at Pavilion and being in Pavilion is you get to see all these tools and all these solutions and all these approaches and use cases for AI that people are doing. And so, yeah, I think we spent a lot of last year just trying to figure out like, okay, let's first like level up the team internally on just using AI and using AI to be more efficient in your role and just cutting down the time on some tasks so you can focus on more higher value stuff. So really like where we started was around honestly the most boring use cases where I focused my team. And so as the demand gen leader, I'm also responsible for our membership sales team. The enrollment manager team is what we call them. And so where I spent a lot of my time and as part of optimizing the bottom of the funnel, like we mentioned, is using AI to really enable those reps to have the most quality conversations with potential members as possible. So I started with building a workflow that before every single meeting they had with a potential member, it scraped the person's LinkedIn profile. It referenced all the features of Pavilion, all the benefits, and matched what they've talked about on their LinkedIn, what their job history is, what their current job is with what Pavilion offers, and then generated a really solid sort of bulleted pitch of items that the rep needs to focus on the call. And as a result, our call conversion rates there's a lot of things. My reps have done an amazing job at leveling up and becoming way better at on pitching and really communicating the value. But part of that impact had to do with like how we prepped them for these calls, outside of just giving them the LinkedIn URL of the person they're about to meet with, but giving them that additional context of that person. So I really started with like this enablement use case, giving them context in the CRM about the person that they're speaking with, whether it be like an AI summary from their LinkedIn profile or these call prep notes that I mentioned that get delivered in Slack. So what I'm trying to do is figure out, and I work with the team all on a weekly basis, is we just look at, all right, what are you guys doing that is just kind of a manual research step or a process step that we could just use AI to optimize so that you can do what you do best, and that's selling. So I've really started with that specific use case. And then now we're finally to the point where we feel like we've gotten processes down pretty well on the sales side, using AI where appropriate. And now we can start using AI to better personalize the messaging that goes out to people. So as an example, I use a tool called Copy AI. I think of Copy AI as like a bunch of mini steps for ChatGPT that you can string together to produce an amazing output. So like step 1 is scrape the person's LinkedIn profile. Step 2 is reference the LinkedIn profile with the list of features. Step 3 is put it into an email format. That's how we're using it. And so I'm able to use Copy AI to personalize little bits and pieces of the email. So recently, going back to the efficiency challenges, we found that we had people, about 50% of our members expense their membership with their company because it's considered a professional development expense. Well, those potential members, they have to pitch it to their company, and they need an easy way to pitch it. So we found ourselves oftentimes getting asked, hey, can you just send me a few reasons why I should join so I can send it to my HR team or my sales leader or whatever? And this is just a perfect use case for AI. So it took a few examples of things that they've sent to prospects who joined after getting that expense template. It used those as an examples, fed the AI, and then built a widget on our website. We can go in and to joinpavilion.com/expense-membership and put in your info, and it spits out an output that is just like a nice formatted email template that's relevant to you, your role, your company, and how Pavilion can help you be better at your role versus necessarily being better at your career, because there's a little bit of a nuance there. Like, I don't want to tell HR that Pavilion is going to help me find my next job, right? So we had to kind of frame it. But I'm sort of trying to move away from like an enablement use cases to more of like, how do I make the buying experience better for everybody using AI? And then that's kind of where we are right now, is finding little areas of optimizations there.
There are a few things I love here. I'm going to try to hit on all of them. I'll probably forget one or two of them. But I love the enablement use case, but it's internal and external enablement. And I think this is something that's getting lost with AI. Actually, I was underqualified for it, but I gave a presentation to the Indianapolis American Marketing Association about AI a couple of weeks ago. And that was one of the like kind of coaching pieces I gave, or piece of advice. We're also focused on how we can use AI, that we forget that our customers are out there using AI. And it's like, how can we actually make our customers more successful with our use of AI versus just our own like internal team? And I love that use case, or that example you give of like, we're actually helping our prospects and future customers build that business case that they can share internally. I think that is so smart. And I think that's such a huge opportunity that sometimes gets glossed over, not thought about as it pertains to AI. Is not only internally, how can we use it to be more efficient, but how can we actually help our customers use AI? So kudos to you and the team there. And then I love that you're using it internally, kind of across teams. I think we're at this like crescendo with AI and the point solutions that are available. I think part of the beauty of AI is that the technology is very powerful. It's very quick to be adopted, very easily adopted. But what ends up happening is, you've got somebody in sales using one AI solution. You've got somebody in sales using another, or marketing using another AI solution. Even within marketing, you could have people using 4 different GPTs to accomplish the same task just because they've created their own account, right? And there's like this, it's accelerating silos within an organization because everybody has their own favorite point solution. They've got their own workflow they're using. But the fact that you've got your team using one work, you identified the process where there's opportunity, and then you're actually using that across different departments, I think is so powerful. Do you think that's like something that's maybe missed in how a lot of organizations are adopting AI right now?
Yeah. So one thing I'm working on literally as we speak in the next 2 weeks is we're building a central repository of every single piece of knowledge related to Pavilion. So effectively, like what we're trying to accomplish is we want to avoid operating in silos when it comes to AI. So if somebody in member success or customer success, and just to use the B2B SaaS vernacular, somebody in CS is building some AI thing to help enable members to be more successful, they need to be referencing the same knowledge about Pavilion as I'm referencing for my pre-sales work. And so what we're doing is we're building a centralized repository of all things Pavilion. So basically we're taking all the data we have in Salesforce and HubSpot, putting that into basically syncing that, not to get too technical, but syncing that into tables within Copy AI. So that way, every time we build a workflow, we can always consistently reference the upcoming courses table. So like, hey, you need to write some AI to talk, you need to do some AI workflow to talk about upcoming courses. This is where you go every single time for courses. This is where you go every single time for upcoming Pavilion events. So really creating the centralized structure, because otherwise what people are doing is they're just exporting PDFs and feeding a knowledge bank. And then those PDFs they just aren't relevant anymore. So then you have to have somebody responsible for continually updating your knowledge base. So what I'm trying to do is create like a dynamic knowledge base in like a table format of like every single Pavilion feature where we continually update it, every single course, all the members. So that way we can member match. We can be like, oh, like you're in sales and you're a VP and you live in Boston. Let's look up this table of our happy members in Boston that are salespeople that would love to have a conversation with you. So what I'm trying to do is just create that central knowledge hub for everybody in the company to reference, because otherwise, to your point, everyone's just going to be building in silos.
Yeah, this is so cool. I'm fascinated. I could probably spend 2 episodes worth just really digging in and geeking out on this with you. You've adopted quickly, you've built quickly. Now it sounds like you're kind of cleaning quickly or kind of setting the parameters very quickly. Like you continue to move the AI ball down the field for Pavilion. For brands that are, maybe not as advanced or maybe just getting started with AI adoption, how do you encourage them to get started?
I'll encourage people to start how I started, is identify the things that you're doing that are just eating away at people's time and costing you their valuable time that you are paying them for to do the jobs that they are getting paid to do. So sales is like probably the best use case for this to start around account research. Really think about things that people are doing manually today, especially research tasks are probably some of the biggest ones, and try to put that on autopilot for them and make it contextual. And by contextual, I mean, put that information that you are generating with AI where they live, not in some separate tool. So that's why we like to use Slack. Like I'll just do a Slack alert of like your upcoming calls, because you're not going to log into some AI point solution tool that's going to give you call prep notes and charge us $15 a month for that. Like that's not something a rep is going to want to do. And so we try to integrate it within the CRMs and within where the reps live in Slack. So I'd say like to get started, like really take a deep look at what people are doing in your organization, that if you could cut that time away, you would make that a lot more efficient. Like the research process, it would be much more accurate and efficient, but then it can also kind of impact things down the line. In the use case for research, if you really focus on creating really solid research of every single lead that comes in and logging that information somewhere, when you are ready to build additional workflows, let's just say you go beyond just creating a summary of who this person is, but you want to create a personalized email to that person, you now have all of that information stored about that research that you did of that prospect that you can reference for a future AI thing that you want to build, like personalized email based upon who this person is. Well, you already have done that work to summarize the person. So really just think about foundational type things that you can build off of, like research, for future things that you want to build with AI. But I mean, I think for sales teams, research is the number one use case. Enrichment is a really key use case that everybody should be using AI for. And then on the marketing side, talk till we're blue in the face about copywriting and SEO optimization with AI. But I would just caution people to be really careful with copywriting, with marketing and AI. And I'm happy to share a story. I mean, we write our top line newsletter every single week. It goes out to 50,000 people. It has the highest open rate and engagement rate out of any email that Pavilion sends. The copy in that newsletter is entirely narrative driven, and it is like authentic, and it is raw and real and unique perspectives that simply AI cannot bring to the table. And I really encourage people, and this is our best performing asset out of all the content we put out. So I just encourage people, like if you're a marketer focusing on content, really, really focus on unique perspectives. And if you want to figure out how to use AI with that, use AI to do the research to help inform some unique perspective that you have, because otherwise you're just regurgitating what everybody else is saying. And that's my biggest caution.
I'm vigorously nodding. I know you can't hear that on the podcast, but I am like vigorously nodding here. If anything, use AI to do all the other crap that allows you to be authentic when you're writing and spend the time to be authentic when you're writing. This is a great jumping off point. Kudos to you for teeing this right up. But I was going to say, so you're investing in all of this AI. Top Line's actually the example I was going to use as a founder. The Top Line podcast, I think, is fantastic. The newsletter, I'm one of the 50% that's opening that on a weekly basis because it's a combination of narrative. There's data in there. There's additional resources that I think are so valuable. But Pavilion's also really invested in brand kind of in parallel to everything you're doing with AI. And I think right now there's this tide of everybody wants to be more efficient, efficient growth, use AI, operationalize everything. But there's also this, that's like creating this opportunity to invest in brand and be more authentic and be more genuine. And it feels like those two things should be kind of in contrast to each other, but you guys have found a way to balance both at the same time. How are you doing that?
I don't think people put enough emphasis on brand in our industry, but at the end of the day, people feel a certain way about your brand. I think about the juice, and if the juice had an ugly logo, an ugly delivery of content, and even if the stuff was good, but the brand didn't make me feel good, then I'm not gonna click into an email from the juice. Yeah. So it's just funny how I think a lot of people tend to think that B2B, and I mean, a lot of people have said this, so I'm just beating a dead horse here, but like you're selling to people. People have emotions. Your job is to bring out the emotion in somebody. So when I talk about the brand Pavilion and what that implies, if you look at our logo and a lot of our branding, it's going up to the mountain, really elevating your career. So we want people to feel when they say the word Pavilion, they think this concept of I am leveling up, I am growing my career. Pavilion is there every step of the way on this journey to the mountain, which is for a lot of people becoming somebody like you, be a founder CEO.
It's more of a hill than a mountain, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's understated conversation right now in a lot of marketing circles as everyone's sort of focused on these like implementations of AI, like how do we personalize this blog? How do we personalize this? But if you're not sharing unique perspectives, like what we do on LinkedIn, we're lucky we've got Sam Jacobs as a founder who has a really solid LinkedIn presence and has really unique perspectives. And that's all part of kind of how people feel about your brand, is how people within the brand are talking about and sharing expertise. Because ultimately, if Pavilion is seen as a guide to people, so Sam Jacobs is affiliated with Pavilion, Sam Jacobs writes posts that help people with one thing or the other, helps CROs do this, CMOs do this, they give some unique perspectives there. Then we're seen as more of that guide along somebody's career journey. And we can really connect that to our brand values and what we're helping people accomplish. So I just like really want to make sure that people are working really hard to make the case for brand investment. And I'll be the first one to say, coming into a DemandGen role, my God, I felt so much pressure to try to drive as much short-term revenue as I possibly could. And, when I was starting to run some ads, I'm just thinking about the last two companies I worked for. When I got some budget to run ads, I immediately was like, bottom funnel. Let's just try to capture as much bottom funnel. And then what happens when that well runs dry, right? What happens when you don't do any brand development? Well, all of a sudden you have a sales rep do outbound. That person they're doing outbound to, even though they're cold, if they're at least aware of your brand, your chances of them replying are going to be a lot higher. So I think people just think about brand as just like, even if it's just how it makes somebody feel, it also impacts how people take action to your brand. We did a study with Trust Radius recently around the importance of brand. And what we found is like when buyers are making a decision about which products to use, The ones that get shortlisted are, I think a majority of them is like 80% or something like that, say that it's like the first 2 to 3 brands that pop into their mind are who gets shortlisted. It's not necessarily like the ones that are doing the most revenue or have the most headcount on LinkedIn. It's all about like that brand association and affiliation. So I really want to make sure that people are focused on, and I'm trying to really orient myself as a DemandGen leader around just like making sure we are investing in brand and making people feel good about Pavilion. So that way, when they are ready to join and they are thinking about community, Pavilion is the first thing they think about.
I love that. You guys have, again, struck that balance. I think I feel it. I see it. I think you guys also do that. I think a big part of that brand experience is how you show up in person.
Yeah.
I think you guys at your events do a fantastic job. Obviously, the top line assets trending up. So just kudos to you all for finding that balance. We'll link to that Trust Radius report. We're big Trust Radius fans ourselves. We'll get that in the show notes here.
Right.
Josh, if people want to learn more from you, maybe join Pavilion, I'd strongly recommend it, or just learn more about Pavilion, what's the best way for our audience to do that?
Yeah, well, please connect with me. If you go to joshcarter.marketing, it will redirect to my LinkedIn page and you can connect with me there. If you want to join Pavilion, just type in joinpavilion.com, check it out. Chances are we have a chapter in your city that you can get connected to within the next week or two with other people dealing with similar challenges as you. So I would love to help you there.
Yep. I personally recommend that to all of our listeners. I can't sing your praises enough. To everybody who is watching and listening today, thanks for joining another episode of the Content Cocktail Hour. Until next time, cheers. Thank you for joining the Content Cocktail Hour powered by Audience Plus. If you want to see more episodes or more resources curated for your role, join us at audienceplus.com. See you next time. Same place. Cheers.